Yes, it is that time. Welcome to Empower Half Hour, your fastest half hour in television, Facebook, Twitter, anything. Nothing is faster than this. With these two dudes right here, I am Darren Pepper.
I'm Frank Reneski from Southern New Jersey, back off my vacation from a week ago.
And I'm Bradley W. Smith from Southwest Wyoming.
All right.
And we're bringing him in. Here awesome. He is.
There he is. What's up, y'all?
This guy right here. Yeah. Welcome to the show, Jonathan. Yeah, man, it's super exciting to have you here. He's a guy who just doesn't even need an introduction. I mean, we just throw him in and here he comes. Jonathan, thanks so much for
I'm always game ready, man. Let's go. I love it. I appreciate the time.
That's right.
And as I always say, man, if you're not jazzed and hyped about talking education, man, you are in the wrong profession. Get out of here. It's time to roll. Let's go.
That's right. Right on. So for those of you who, I don't know, live under a rock or don't follow education, and for some reason are watching our show tonight, you don't know who this dude is. Man, from the Fredland Middle School, author of this bad boy right here, Next Level Teaching, Jonathan Alsheimer. Man, so good to have you on the show.
Like I said, man, I appreciate the opportunity and hanging out with you guys. Are you kidding me? Shoot. I'm telling you, this is like the original folks, man. When I'm talking education, I remember when we met up just not too long ago hanging out. I saw that picture you posted earlier of us hanging out at JRNC.
Yeah.
Let's go, man. Good times.
Absolutely.
Well, basically, when you get to be old like me, you get to meet most everybody. So, yeah. I'm sorry I missed that picture.
Next time, brother.
We got to do it, man. Heck, man, I'm getting one right now. We don't know when that next time will be.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so let's talk about your book, man. It was something that just bam hit it, and it's making things happen. It's along the philosophy that we talk about every week. The only thing that it didn't have in it that we talk about every week is Bruce Springsteen. So in your next edition, throw him out there.
I'll try to make that happen, man. Yeah, I'm honestly, dude, that book, I'll tell you what, man, it took on a life of its own as far as I'm concerned. It came down to, for me, it was about what would I want to know? What would I want to know when I first walked into the classroom? And I just got asked a question not too long ago. Somebody asked me, what was the best PD you were ever involved in? And I said, man, the first time I walked into a classroom was the best PD I ever got. And so when I wrote that book, that's for me, I was like, what would I want to know? It was kind of like a hybrid of everything, some strategies sprinkled in there, but the philosophies, my philosophies of education, and just kind of if I were to sit down and think what should a kid fresh out of the class, fresh out of the gate want to know, need to know to just kind of kickstart it all, that was kind of what came to mind. For me, it's about building that classroom culture, and from there, the classroom culture breeds into the school culture, and you're just lighting a fire of a love of learning in kids and the people around you. And so, man, that's what it was all about. So, yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to jump in with a couple items and questions, and I'm sure that'll filter its way here. And obviously it loops back to the book, because a lot of the things that we've been able to incorporate in education, we know that you've been able to take some things that we've shared, and then we've taken stuff that you've been sharing. And one of those is I had a great opportunity last year in actually taking this directly from a challenge that you issued, which was during your prep hours, go visit the substitute teachers in the building. How did that come about? And tell me where it went from there.
Yeah, dude, that's a great way to kind of just help out the people around you. And really, you're talking about, when you're doing something like that, you're talking about building relationships with kids, building relationships with people around you, checking in on just teachers in general, checking in on, again, with the subs, and just making sure kids are doing what they're supposed to. And oftentimes with our students, if they know you're coming in and you're coming in often, they're going to be ready for it. Plus, a lot of times when you're doing that, you get the opportunity to ask them, hey, what are you learning? You're reinforcing what they're learning, because they got to tell you. And a lot of times I'd walk in and I'd be like, all right, what are you learning? I was walking in today, and if you don't give me an answer, then that means you need me to contact your folks and let them know you're not learning enough or something like that. So kids were always ready to go. But it just kind of took on a life of its own, because we were talking about it at the beginning of the year. We sat down as a leadership team, and we were trying to figure out game plans on what to do. And my little group, my little pod, we were kind of talking about that. And then next thing you know, I was like, you know what? We're 2 months into school, let's do it. So I started walking around and, you know, talking to kids in the hallway that were on the way to their classes or getting water, checking passes, just kind of working on those classroom and school-wide initiatives that we expect and we talk about. And then I started walking by classrooms and walking into classrooms. Then it kind of morphed its way into checking on the substitute teachers. And then it kind of became just walking around and getting involved within the school. And my buddy was like, let's do this. So me and him started walking around, and the next thing you know, more teachers got involved in it. And then other teachers were like, you know, I loved it when I was teaching, all of a sudden they're walking by my classroom. Like, and it's just an opportunity for us as a school to kind of do, again, simple things that are game changers within our school. How simple is it to take? I don't have a lot of planning time. And a lot of times I'm like, dude, the last thing I want to do is walk around the halls and go and check on these different things. I want to sit down, man. I want to eat my lunch because I haven't even eaten lunch yet. But going and doing that, even for 5 minutes, you're being seen by the kids. You're being seen by the kids in grade levels and classrooms and students you don't teach. And you're building relationships with them. All of a sudden, these kids know your name. You're smiling at them. And if you can incite a smile in a kid or get them to laugh or whatever, and the more they see you next time when they might be thinking about doing something silly in the hallway or whatever, they see Mr. Alsheimer, Mr. Skinner, Miss Thomas walking down, they're like, oh, and they check themselves because you built a relationship without even having to teach them in your class. It's a powerful thing, but a simple thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it did. It definitely made an impact. It taught me a lot. So I appreciate that, that challenge. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And also, like, teachers feel cool about, like, you checking on their classes because then they feel like when they're out, you know, they got people that have their back. So not only are you building relationships with the kids, but you have each other's back. And as a school, that's huge.
So I remember at a point, Jonathan, when you shared the video that Bradley's talking about, it wasn't just you. It was another teacher there in the building. How much, and I realized, of course, this year, in terms of that, because you guys are virtual, is a bit of a wash, but how much of that, like, started to kind of breed itself through others doing it? I mean, was it just the two of you, or was this like something that started to kind of take over in the culture of your school?
Yeah, no, it kind of started to take over, man. And if you think about it, like, it's not just like this walking around checking on classrooms thing. It's anything that you do. You know what I mean? If you're doing something cool in your classroom and kids are talking about it in math class, or there's something cool in science and they come into my classroom and they're talking about it, or if it's teachers walking around the school, or it's like we're about to have a big pep assembly and all of a sudden that teacher's talking about what they're doing, like all of a sudden, like, let's be real, man. Kids are so competitive, but teachers are too. Like, let's get to the root of it, man. Teachers are competitive too, man. And not like in a bad way, but like in a, man, like, I like what he's doing, or I like what she's doing, or I like, oh, you're doing that for the pep assembly, or you're doing that cool idea in your classroom. Like, man, I'm going to step my game up, or now we're challenging each other. And it's just like those things just incite a little bit of fun also in the teachers, man. So it was one of those things where it was kind of me. I just kind of started walking around. Then my buddy came with me. Then other teachers started doing it, and they were doing stuff. Man, some other teachers were doing it even more than I was. It was awesome to see that. But it's like, it's kind of that snowball effect when you're doing something cool that's making a difference. When you're doing something, and a lot of times, again, I go back to this idea of simple, man. Everybody thinks like it's got to be this next big thing. It's got to be building rocket ships and flying to space, man. The most impactful moments in a school oftentimes are the smallest moments or things that we do. Sometimes it's conversations that we have. Sometimes it's walking around the classroom. Sometimes walking around the hallway. Sometimes it's something that you do in the lunchroom, all these different things. But when other teachers see that, all of a sudden they're like, hey, man, I got to do that. I want to do that. I want to step my game up. I want to build relationships like that. And I've seen teachers do things that I'm like, yo, I'm stealing that idea. This is a great idea, or a great – kids are talking about what they're doing in a certain classroom. So, of course, I got to jump in and up my game. It's one of those things that teachers can get sucked into the chaos and into the fun and into the challenges and into the idea that somebody else is doing something cool, so I want to do it too, just like kids do, man, just like kids do. And honestly, that's what makes teaching fun, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I steal from you, you steal from me, we'll steal from each other, make our school better.
And you're talking about key components that don't cost us anything. Visibility. I mean, heck, kids see you around and you begin to know their names. They're not even in your class, and they know your name, and you're not even their teacher. And then when their teacher comes back, that kind of gets the snowball rolling in the respect that, wait a minute, what was Mr. Alsheimer doing in my class? Hey, that's a great idea. And the next time, as you say, that's going to happen. And it builds that collegiality, and you don't want to let each other down. It's like the Medal of Honor. recipient, because you aren't going to let that guy next to you down or that girl next to you down, and that's what happens.
Yeah,
Love
man, it's
it.
like you got my back, I got your back mentality, man, because we're in it for the kids. At the end of the day, it's about the impact over everything else. And, you know, when we show up with a passion to make an impact on the lives of the people, that includes not only the kids and the community, but also the teachers around us, man. We got to look out for each other, because at the end of the day, man, teaching's a tough job, leading's a tough job, being a principal's a tough job. We got to have each other's back.
So, okay, so you just said the magic word, and I got to ask, man. I wasn't sure if I was even going to ask this question, but you just said principal. So you work for the fire spitting, insane dragon. I mean, Mr. Relentless himself, Hamish Brewer. I love Hamish.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, what is it like to work? I mean, before I even ask the question, you bring the fire all the time. Oh my God, what is it like for you to work with Hamish?
Honestly, man, it's one of those things where people often say, like, is he the real deal, man? Like, is he, you know, like when I was hanging out with you guys at JRNC, man, we were hanging out and there was 1,500 people watching him speak on stage, and everybody wants to know if it's the real deal. It is the real deal, man. The guy's on fire. The guy does what he says. He loves kids, he loves teachers, he loves education, and he loves to be relentless for his people. And that's everybody, man. That's the community, that's the parents, that's everybody. So it is the real deal. And the one thing I love, and I feel like every teacher can take from him, is one, he's going to stand in the trenches, on the front lines with you, next to you, in front of you, and he just has an energy that is infectious, contagious, for lack of better words, especially right now in society. But, you know, just something that people see and they're like, all right, man, I'm jived up. I'm ready to rock and roll, man. He hypes you with his energy, and you can't help but get sucked into his chaos too. And I love it because he's down for anything, man. Like the crazy ideas, man. Like a lot of times you'll have a school leader, principal, whoever that's like, I don't know if that's any good. Like, I remember when I came up to him and I was like, yo, let's have a UFC fighter come to our school. You down? And he's like, let's do it. I remember one time I was like, hey, I'm going to reach out, you know, for various reasons to different clothing companies, and can I get donations? He's like, yeah, let's do it. Then all of a sudden the guy wanted to Skype us right before Christmas break. I was like, do you want to do a Skype with an MTV reality star? He's like, yeah, let's do it. You know, if you want. All of a sudden our soccer team won the championship, and on a whim, he's like, yo, let's throw them a concert in the gym and just this whole school go nuts. And we had the lights blacked out. We had a dude come in and perform. It was insane. And like the spotlight was on them. And it's just, that's the type of person that I'm working with. And how can you not get inspired by that? You know what I mean? That's just, you know, you have to, you see it and you're like, I want to be a part of this. So.
Yeah. It's awesome.
So what's
well,
up?
If you guys don't have more questions, I got more questions.
You know what?
Oh,
dude, I can talk all day. Don't waste time with me. I'm a talker.
This is the Jonathan show. We're just here, you know, for you to make us look good. So what's the next big thing coming to the gymnasium over there at the Fred Lynn?
Honestly, man, I was just talking with Hamish on the phone a couple of days ago, and I was just like, we were just chatting about whatever, and he goes, man, I'm ready for some big stuff, man. He's like, I'm not sure what it is yet, but I'm ready to do something big. And I was like, dude, you know me. I'm a text, phone call, walk down the hallway away, hit me up. I was like, what are we doing next? Like, are we reaching out to some big time, you know, big shot on social media? Are we throwing a party? Like what are we doing for the kids? Because it's all about the kids, right? So I said, I'm down for whatever. And like I said, man, that's what he's down for, anything and everything. And the cool thing is, like, I work with some of the most amazing teachers, because we had a teacher with an Olympic connection that was bringing in right before the COVID. It ended up having to be pushed back because of snow days and stuff. And then all of a sudden COVID happened, and then we couldn't bring him in. But they had an Olympic medalist that was going to come in. We've had all kinds of people bringing in stuff to our school and our community. So it's a powerful thing to be a part of. I don't know what's next, but I'm telling you right now, stay tuned. It's going to be fire. So,
what kind of model are you guys using? Are you guys there? How many days a week?
Right now, we are fully virtual for the next couple of weeks. Various grade levels have come back early, like the younger grades. Fred Lynn Middle School, we're fully virtual right now. We're about to become hybrid, where we go back in February, end of February, early March. We're going to go back and do hybrid model. So, and it kind of ebbs and flows depending on what's going on. So that's the plan right now.
Okay. So I got next question then.
You got it, man.
Now, some things that obviously on the show, we talk about education. Obviously, 43 straight episodes that our guests have mentioned the importance of relationships. But another inadvertent element with our guests that we have quite often are girl dads. You've got daughters as well.
Yeah.
So how has having those precious girls in your life impacted and changed those expectations that you have, not only for you as a teacher, but for the other teachers that they're going to be in the classrooms of?
You know what, man? I'm going to answer your question in two different ways. Number one, man, for us, like for our kids, and I even wrote this in my book, Next Level Teaching. I said, for us, you would think as two teachers, my wife being a teacher, myself, obviously, that we want like a million things for our kids. We want the best this, the best that. At the end of the day, I trust educators. I trust teachers. They're going to bring it, man. I trust the teachers that they're going to do the very best that they can to build relationships, the instructional strategies, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the relationships for us between the teachers and our daughters is key. I want my daughter to love their teacher, and I want their teacher to love them back, if that makes sense. Because as I've often said, if our kids love school, they're going to learn. If our kids want to be there, they're going to learn. So that's what I want for my daughters. And then also it's kind of changed me as a teacher myself, because like, honestly, like I can connect with my students in a way that I was just a little bit less effective before I was a dad, man. Like all of a sudden, like, and you can use things that with certain kids that maybe are, you're trying to connect with them, but you're just not getting there. And all of a sudden you start talking about like stories with the kids, you get them laughing, something that you did that was funny or a picture that was cute. And all of a sudden they're locked in. But it also changed my view on how I treat my students in my classroom. I say, teach like it's your kid in the front row, back row, side row, out in the hallway, out in the football field, through a Zoom screen, through a mask. It doesn't matter, man. Like if you start looking at your students like they're your children, you want the best for your kids. You want the best instruction. You want your teachers that they have to speak to them in a positive light. And when it's a critiquing situation, to be very particular about their words. So how you respond to kids, you know what I mean? So all of a sudden I started taking a look at that, and I started looking at my classrooms and thinking like, I'm going to bring it a little bit harder because I'm teaching like it's my daughters in my classroom. I'm going to build relationships in a way that's just different. I'm going to have life conversations with my students, and I'm going to try to make them better people, because that's what I want for my kids. So I started to bring that attitude into my classroom, and it really revolutionized me as a teacher, because I want the best for my daughters. I want the best for my kids. So naturally, I want the best for my students because I'm treating them the same way. It's a game changer, man. And I always say, if you're a teacher that doesn't have kids, imagine that you do, and that's the game changer for you.
Absolutely,
Thank
man.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Bradley, I'm glad you asked that question too, because I was thinking about that on the drive home. That once again, here we are, 4 guys in the squares, and everybody here, nothing but girl dads, and it's that's always a great conversation to have. So Jonathan, I got to ask you this, man. I know you've got a whole lot of other things going on outside of being a teacher. I know being a husband and a father is first for you. Being a teacher is right there, right behind it. But I know you're doing some things with speaking, and I know you're doing some things, with PD. I'm one of the ones who's blessed enough to have had you in my school. When you came and spent some time at West Grand, man, it was just absolutely amazing. Talk a little bit about what you got going on there. How are things going there? When you're out there on the road and you're out there, spreading the next level teaching message, man, what's it all about?
For me, I think, I'm a teacher first. Like, I feel like a lot of people get into the game of speaking and things because they're trying to get out of the school. For me, I think that's the case a lot of times. For me, man, like I was born and bred in education. My parents are teachers. My wife's a teacher. I got my leadership degree. So at some point I'm going to go that route. And, I'm a teacher, but right now I'm a teacher. I don't want to leave the classroom. I don't want to leave students, man. I'm a teacher first and foremost, always. Speaking is just something that I do because I love to make an impact. I feel like in my life, I want to make an impact in any way possible, anywhere I can. And so I was blessed to be able to write a book. And from there, I started to speak. I spoke at JRNC. All of a sudden, I was speaking at West Grand. Next thing you know, I was getting phone calls to go to different schools, conferences, whatever it is. And that's still the thing. Like, I'm getting DMs on Twitter from principals. I just got one this morning to speak in Florida and different stuff. So I'm excited about those opportunities, but those opportunities only matter because of what I'm doing in my classroom and what I'm trying to do. And that's impact kids. So by being a good teacher, I'm impacting kids. By being a good father, I'm impacting my own kids. And then by speaking, I'm hopefully positively impacting the people that are listening, and then they can impact more kids. So at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Kids, man, making the lives for these students, better, because hopefully somebody's taken a piece that I said. Maybe I didn't say a ton of great stuff, but maybe I said one really impactful thing that just lit them up, and they go into their classroom and they do something cool. And the next thing you know, you got a kid who was normally not bringing a notebook and a pencil. Now all of a sudden they're doing that, and you're changing the views of like education for our students. And that's the key, man. If we can get kids to love school, I said it before, I'll say it again, I'll say it a million times. If we can get kids to love school and want to be there, they're going to learn. And that's my focus. So the speaking is like icing on the cake. The book is icing on the cake. That's great, but I'm not leaving the classroom. I'm not leaving the school, because that's where my passion is, man. Because I feel like being there, being in the trenches, man, seeing kids, being with teachers, like that's where the change really happens. Everything other than that is just to kind of spread the wings and make that influence just kind of reach more people and reach more kids. I don't know if that answered your question, Greg, but
no, man, that's awesome. I mean, I know you're doing a lot of speaking, and that's awesome. And I'll go back to you speaking, here in West Grand. I mean, you're right. You and I met. We connected before JRNC, but we really met at JRNC, and just reaching out to you that afternoon that I did. I'm like, hey, man, I want you to come talk to my kids. I want you to come talk to my teachers. And I just remember for days, you and I going back and forth, and you sharing with me DMs you were getting on Twitter and on Insta from my kids. And just, you made a huge impact on our kids and on our staffability. So honestly, I want you to know how much I appreciate that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I remember, one time I was speaking at a school, and I had a student that showed up that day to drop out. And something I said struck that student, and that student decided not to drop out. And for me, that was key. And then most of the speaking that I do is actually obviously for teachers. I also speak to student assemblies, but most of it's for teachers. And I'll have teachers come up and they'll say, you know what, I'm gonna use this in my classroom. We'll see what's up. And I always say, hit me with a DM and tell me how it worked. And I'll get DMs from teachers that are like, hey, I'll use this idea and it really, really worked. Or I used this method and I built a relationship. And those messages, to me, I think a lot of times people will send messages and they're like, I don't even know if this person's going to read it or care. A lot of times I'll read it and it like fires me back up. Like maybe I had a bad day, and all of a sudden you're hitting me up and saying, the one thing you said that was really powerful, man, all of a sudden now I'm ready to go. So I appreciate that, man. I really do.
Yeah. So moving along with that, how do our viewers get in touch with you if they want to learn more, they want to get your book, they want to book you to sign, to speak for them? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, man, I'm really about making it simple, man. So for my book, Next Level Teaching, check it out on Amazon. Next Level Teaching by Jonathan Alsheimer. For booking me, I work with Jim Cassis. I work with DBC. I work with premier speakers. But the easiest way to get a hold of me, and honestly, I'm a simple man, handshake and a couple text messages or DMs, man. Twitter is the key, and anybody that wants to talk about speaking, hit me up, and then we'll set up a phone call. It's that simple, man. And we'll just have a conversation, sit down and chat. And that's what it's all about for me. So DMs on Twitter are the way to go, at Mr. Alsheimer all day long.
Perfect. Right on. All right. Hey, let's go. Final thoughts, fellas, here. I think Frank gets to choose who goes when. So let's rock and roll. Final thoughts.
Go ahead, Darren.
All right. Cool. I guess it's me. So my final thought is this. This is what I'm going to take away from this. Obviously, I've known Jonathan for a long time and just appreciate everything about you. But right now, man, it's a tough time in education. And, we're all just really struggling through things. And yet, you've been virtual for almost a year, man. And you still are bringing fire and energy and love and passion. And, man, I'll tell you what, I appreciate it. And I love you for it. And this is just awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Go ahead, Bradley.
One of the things that Jonathan and I really love and that I've learned from you and I've really tried to incorporate into my teaching is to really avoid self-doubt when it comes to what you're going to do in your lessons. It's so easy for educators to have some cool idea, to get fired up about it, and then go, that probably won't work. Or what if the students don't like it? And I love that you've told me in the past, you're like, who cares? Just go for it.
Yeah.
And today was one of those moments. I actually sat with a group of students, and we were able to have Griffin Hammond, who is the director. He's a documentary filmmaker, and he was the director of the documentary all about sriracha. And we had him as a guest in our classroom via Zoom, talking to my students about how to make a documentary, how to fund a documentary, tips and tricks about equipment and different tech to be able to use to make their own films. And that was incredible. And that just came from reaching out on Twitter and saying, hey, some kids were eating sriracha today because they watched your documentary. You got time to call in and talk to us next week? And he did. And it was awesome just to see how engaged the kids were in learning and figuring these new things out. It was incredible. And all it was, it was easy to self-sabotage and say, you know what, that probably wouldn't work, or maybe he's too busy, but you never know unless you try.
Dude, you never know unless you try. And the cool thing about it is, like, there's always tomorrow with teaching, man. Sink or swim, man. And if we're going to challenge our kids to go out on a limb, man, why can't we as educators go out on a limb? And sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it's going to flop, but there's always tomorrow. So bring that heat, man. And if at the end of the day it works, man, maybe you change a life or you do something cool, or you have a kid that's like, yo, today was savage. But if it doesn't, there's always tomorrow.
Yep.
Jonathan, what do you got, man? What's your final thought?
Now, I'm going to say this, like, at the end of the day, there's so much we could say as educators, but I'm going to say this. At the end of the day, there's so many things that we're going through in education. It's so tough, man, getting kids to participate via Zoom, or we got to wear these masks, or we got to worry about, how do we get kids to cooperatively learn but socially distance, like all this crazy stuff. You know what? Do the best you can, but make a kid smile. That's the key. Get kids to smile. If we as educators, as adults are going through struggles, and we're struggling because we all are, man, we're all trying to figure life out right now. What about the kids? What about the kids? So get kids to smile, change their day, get them to laugh, tell a silly joke, because that's the thing that they're going to take away from your classroom probably more than anything else right now. And maybe you can get them to turn on their screen, or maybe you can get them to laugh, and then all of a sudden they're going to do their work a little bit more efficiently. But getting them to smile, getting them to laugh, and getting them to feel good, that's the key.
Agreed.
And now, my final thoughts. You know what? Thank you guys for bringing the heat. I'm just coming out of a 2-week quarantine, so it's crazy, but it's one of those implicit bias things when if you don't have it, you don't know exactly how it feels. And when I hear that schools can't open and that schools need to do this and schools need to do that and not getting what we need, and the teachers need to get the vaccines. And unless you don't want to get the vaccine, we need to prioritize in this country what's most important. And I got to say, when you come in contact and you're at risk every day, it's just not fair to who we are in America. So let's be strong together. We need each other. And if you haven't heard from somebody in a while, reach out. And if you don't hear from them, keep reaching out. And keep reaching and reaching and reaching, and keep bringing that fire and keep bringing that love. And we need each other. So, guys, Bradley, Darren, Jonathan, I salute the greatness in you guys. Peace and love always wins. Thank you.
Love it, boys.
Have a real awesome week, guys.
Take care, man.